BXB. It's in the game!
Something that is becoming indicative of modern gaming is the amount of excitement and anticipation I have, and many have, for the release of the next big indie title. Hyper Light Drifter by Heart Machine was in development for a long time, starting as a Kickstarter, then on PC, and now on consoles. So I am now going to review this much anticipated indie game, and what can I say? Retro future aesthetics for the win. I think it's fair to say as well that Hyper Light Drifter in many ways is most reminiscent of Fez. Now, the gameplay is quite different to that of Fez's, but the look, the style, and the mystery that Fez conveyed so masterfully a few years ago is definitely apparent in Hyper Light Drifter as well. Now, in Hyper Light Drifter, you play as, well, the unnamed hero, because everything goes unnamed in this game. There's no language in Hyper Light Drifter. There's no voice acting, at least not in English, and yeah, no written sort of explaining text or anything. As you can see here, I'm in the storefront, I think. No, I am in a storefront. At sort of the home base of the game, and nothing has text, nothing is explained with words. Everything is inferred with symbols, the odd sort of pictogram, hieroglyphs almost. And it takes a little bit of time, but as you get yourself, it helps immerse you into the world. It's a completely alien environment. A beautiful alien environment full of sort of neon colours and bright textures and this simple kind of look. It's a little bit reminiscent of sort of a game you might find on the SNES or the NES, the 16-bit or 32-bit era, but it's very modern as well in its sensibilities. It's hard as nails actually. You'll get further into the game. You know, it starts off fairly simple, but the combat quickly becomes increasingly difficult. But it requires and demands a mastery of the player, which I find incredibly compelling, as most roguelike games kind of do now that they've risen into popularity in recent years. So the combat basically involves this sort of dash mechanic, which you use to do the platforming sections as well, but it's also a very important dodge mechanic. You have a gun and you have a sword, and as you play through the game you unlock abilities and extra sort of powers to these weapons in this sort of moveset, but the fundamentals stay mostly the same as you kind of go through the different worlds and environments of the game. The game is split into quite distinct chunks, which also have distinct difficulty levels. I definitely found, you know, if you go in the wrong direction to start with, you will get punished, you will die. Though the checkpointing in Hyper Light Drifter is actually quite generous for a roguelike. You can warp around the map screen quite easily and get to areas you've previously seen. Like as you're watching me here, I'm repeatedly falling off a cliff because I'm early on in the game in these videos and I'm just not that great. You know, the health pack pickups and the currency pickups are also quite plentiful, though the actual kind of amount you need to do upgrades seems quite steep when you first start the game. I think the most striking thing about Hyper Light Drifter is definitely the visual aesthetic, the presentation, that mixture of mystery, the puzzle solving. It's a heavy emphasis on exploration and combat. A kind of 50-50 mix. It's balanced really well. But yeah, the way this game looks, the way the game sounds, the music is fantastic as well. It sort of evokes a world totally sort of unlike our own, completely alien, and yet sort of incredibly compelling and at times understandable. Kind of it makes me think of a Bastion or a Transistor, a Supergiant game. Amazing world building in those experiences as well, though a little bit more traditional in the way they do things. It's a really stylistic experience, and I love the fact that the developer here, basically a one-man team with two people helping out, really committed to this environment and to this idea of this world. He's not gonna hand anything to you. Everything needs to be earned, be it, you know, the combat encounters, or be it just understanding what the story is or what you've got to do next. At times it's confusing. I don't think the execution is 100% perfect, but you have to love the ambition. The polish of the controls is again like reminiscent of a Supergiant games like Bastion or Transistor. The combat works brilliantly well. You know, when you die in this game, it's always your fault. It's never the fault of the games, of unresponsive controls or a poor controller layout. Everything is simple on the surface, but complex once you start to dig into it. There is a lot you can do in this game, and the journey, the exploration is definitely one worth doing, even if it's just to look at the visuals. I currently have a screenshot of one environmental screen that I came across quite early in the game as the background on my Xbox. It's such a stunning experience, visually and audioly as well. Audioly is not a word, but I'm going to roll with that anyway. Yeah, I think Hyper Light Drifter is a cool game. I think cool is the word for it. Incredibly stylish, very polished, a fun experience, a punishing experience. And if you're in the mood for something a little different as we approach the AAA season, I definitely recommend picking up Hyperlight Drifter on Xbox One, on PS4, or PC. So, I think 4 stars.
BXB. It's in the game.